The house on the dead-end street becomes a house of horrors.
He's dead! He's dead!
A woman wakes up to find her boyfriend covered in blood, dead from an apparent suicide.
He's bleeding. There's blood everywhere. I think he killed himself.
Cops are suspicious from the moment they walk into Danny Rowland's home.
This was clearly a staged crime scene.
And then, in a bizarre moment in the middle of the house of blood and gore,
Amber Ratliff.
the police videographer captures Danny's girlfriend smiling and laughing. How could she have slept through such brutal carnage?
There was blood everywhere. Like everywhere you looked, there was little spats and spatters of blood.
Immediately, cops start asking, is the death of Danny Rowland really suicide, or is it murder? Danny Rowland Jr. was by all accounts a good man, a hard worker, and adored by his family.
What was Danny like growing up?
He was pretty active and shy.
And he was funny. He was a practical joker. He loved playing jokes on people, had an awesome laugh.
Danny lived near the lush ranch land of Pottsboro, Texas. He worked with his father, Danny Sr., at a local manufacturing plant.
I was in maintenance department, so I got paged a lot because I run the night shift crew. That's where we got the name Danny Sr. and Danny Jr. because when you got paged over the intercom, you didn't know who they were paging. I was proud of him. I just wished I had shown him more at that time.
What type of man did Danny become?
A good father. He always took care of his kids.
And that sentiment is echoed by Danny Jr.'s daughter, Kelly.
What are some of your fondest memories that you hold so dear of you and your dad?
I'd have to say laying on the couch every weekend watching TV and playing football.
He played football with you?
Yeah, I was like his tomboy.
Were you Daddy's little girl?
Yes.
But Kelly says those good times were tainted after her dad started dating Amber Ratliff.
What type of relationship did Amber and your father have?
There were times where they would fight a lot and we would just me and my older sister would go to our room, but at first everything looked good, but towards the end, that's when we noticed a lot of things that we didn't like.
Like what?
Well, they just started fighting a lot and she just didn't really care about anything much.
Was Amber good to you?
Yes, she was at first. Towards the end, she really didn't talk to us much.
What did you think of Amber at first?
I didn't trust her. You could tell there was a dark side to her.
So Amber fooled you?
Yes, absolutely. I got close to Amber, very close to Amber, and I did treat her like a daughter.
Danny's younger sister, Tammy, says she and her brother were inseparable until Amber entered the family picture.
You're saying Amber alienated Danny from the family?
Yes. Oh, yeah. She up and moved him out from, he got kicked out of his apartment he lived in for probably over 15 years when they ended up getting together.
Tammy claims the wedge that separated Danny from his family? Addiction.
Was he trying to change his life around?
Yes, he was. He was ready to leave, get away from her, and start over new and get clean. He wanted to leave that night. When he called my dad, he was ready to leave. He had already planned that day to leave that night.
And you talked to him that one last time that you never thought would be the last time?
Yes.
And shortly after Danny's last phone call to Dad, Amber would make a frantic 911 call.
Man, my boyfriend's died in the living room, and there's blood all over his face.
But that night, Danny and Amber had a house guest, the boy down the street, Tyler Quain.
Had you heard of Tyler before?
I believe I'd heard his name one time before. He was at her son's birthday party out there with him, and I was wondering, why is such a young boy hanging out with you at your house? Supposedly, he was a babysitter for her kids.
It doesn't really make sense why Quain would be at their home that late at night.
Right.
In court documents, Amber claims she took 3 sleeping pills, and early in the morning, Tyler woke her up covered in blood. Danny's blood. Danny's head was bashed in. He had multiple stab wounds, and his wrists were slit.
Do you see any weapons? Yeah, there's a beer in his hand and there's a gash on his wrist.
And near the body, what could be interpreted as a suicide note scrawled on the back of an ATM receipt. I loved you. Bye.
And Sergeant Wheeler calls me. He says, I got a suicide for you.
Sergeant Chad Butler with the Anna, Texas Police Department was then working for the Grayson County, Texas Sheriff's Office when he got the call to investigate the alleged suicide.
I go up the back steps, through the kitchen into the living room, and that's where Danny Joe Rowland was laying underneath the Christmas tree, underneath a University of Texas blanket. It was orange with a big longhorn on the front. Sarge said it looks like he had cut his wrist. And at this point, I'm seeing a 16-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid. I'm thinking there's no way possible that a child of this age could do something that's this horrendous looking. It was horrible.
Tyler was right in the thick of the terror, and Butler was told to take the boy home.
So I was about halfway back to the crime scene, and Sergeant Wheeler calls me and goes, "Where's that kid that you just took?" So I dropped him off with his mama like you told me. He says, "Go get him right now. We got to have him. This is a homicide."
At the time, did Quayne seem like someone who had done anything wrong when he was in the backseat of your car? You were taking him home?
I mean, he was riding next to me. I thought he was just a witness, if anything, and he said he was asleep.
Butler takes Tyler to sheriff's headquarters and tests his clothes for blood.
We used a chemical that's called Blue Star. You mix it up with distilled water, you spray it on there. It's like luminol, except it glows blue. There was blue spots up and down these little jogging pants that he had on.
The glow from the blood literally lit up the room.
Yes.
And this was supposed to be a suicide.
Yes. So it was stacking up pretty quick that this was not what we thought we were looking at.
Then the CSI team checks the fingerprints on the so-called suicide note and the beer bottle.
And it turned out that Tyler Quayne's fingerprints were on the note, and the beer bottle had his fingerprints on it.
So Quayne is looking more and more suspicious all along as you go.
Yes, ma'am.
So he's not this 15-year-old kid you thought was just there during a suicide. He's
suspect, definitely.
Danny's body was taken to the medical examiner, and the autopsy confirmed Butler's suspicions.
The medical examiner's report indicated he had been stabbed approximately 16 to 17 times and had suffered blunt force trauma wounds to the head, which the medical examiner believed were caused by a hammer.
A hammer, multiple stab wounds. What kind of suicide is this? Next.
You think he had 10 beers?
No, I know he had 10 beers.
Blood, beer, and fingerprints. The suicide investigation is now a murder investigation.
He just felt gooey. When I saw his arm, he was finally out like this. This arm was like this, and this arm was like closer to his body.
What Quayne says that makes investigators realize they might be sitting next to a teen killer.
Danny wouldn't have taken his own life.
No.
You know better than that.
I know that without a doubt because he loved his family.